with some good old red state hospitality. What do you think about that? And by the way, we have breaking news. This just in, I just saw it on Fox News. Joe Biden has actually found the convention. Unfortunately, it was the one in Tampa. So he's heading this way right now. Uncle Joe will be here in just a few days after they unchain him and turn him loose on the Democrat convention here in North Carolina. Well, thank you for what you're doing. And when we wanted to kick off this Obama's failing agenda tour, how many of you have seen the bus outside? We wanted to kick that off. We could think of nowhere better than right here in North Carolina with you. You know, this was one of our very first state American for Prosperity chapters. We started here way back in 2004. And you guys have made this such a successful state, not just for the organization, but thankfully for economic freedom. This state is on the move, and folks like you are the reason why. Thank you for what you're doing. And this year, the stakes couldn't be bigger. You know that, right? Right. As this convention starts, on the eve of this convention, the President of the United States is going to have to answer an uncomfortable question. And that question is one maybe you can answer tonight. And here it is. Under this president's economic policies, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Let me repeat that one more time, just in case CNN and all the guys in the main national media didn't hear it. After 4 years of Obamacare politics, stimulus spending, trillion-dollar deficits, EPA regulations, a transformation, in the president's words, of our nation's economy, are you better off today than 4 years ago? I didn't think you were. And folks, I believe that next January, because of that, we're going to have a brand new president of the United States of America. And that is not, and I mean this, that is not a political statement. Policies matter, right? Policies matter. Politics is talk, and this president's good at that. We know that. We've heard the speeches. But they ring hollow when the policies are big government, big spending, big regulation that have failed our children, our grandchildren, our businesses, our families, and our entire nation. And that's why he's being held accountable. And it's going to be a new direction for our nation this year. And I want to tell you something. If you ever wonder, the number one question I get asked on the road, I hear it over and over and over, whether it's in California or South Carolina or right here in North Carolina. It's, are we making a difference? All of the emails and phone calls and rallies and Tea Party events and everything that you're doing, that we're doing, all the ads, everything else, are we making a difference? And to answer that question, I want to go back for just a minute to January of 2009. Take a moment to go back to January of 2009. I didn't say it was going to be fun, all right? We had a brand new president with an approval rating of 74%. We had a then Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And by the way, isn't it nice to say then Speaker Nancy Pelosi? Because she's not the Speaker anymore because of folks like you. She had a 50-seat majority, and Harry Reid had 60 seats in the Senate. And truth be told, the Republicans in Washington were pretty wobbly, right? They had not found their sea legs. And the liberals had 3 agenda items on the domestic level. Number one, card check. Remember card check? They were actually going to take away the right to the secret ballot from Americans when they were deciding whether or not to have a union in their place of work. It was big labor's biggest payoff, and it was primed to go. Secondly, remember cap and trade? Yep. It was the crowning achievement was to be of Al Gore. And speaking of hot air, where is Al Gore today? He's disappeared. It's sad, really. Oh, no, it's not. But he has disappeared. Cap and trade was the payoff to the global warming ideology, biggest energy tax in world history. It was a done deal. And third was a nationalization of our healthcare system. all the pundits, all the national media said it's a done deal. 60 votes in the Senate, filibuster proof, 50 plus seats for Nancy Pelosi in the House, an ascendant, all-time popular president. It was a done deal. Fast forward to today. Card check never even came to a vote in the House. It's dead today. And why is that? Do you think that big labor bosses said, gosh, we were just kidding. Taking away the right to the secret ballot? Are you kidding me? That's un-American. No, of course they didn't say that. You know what happened to card check? You happened to card check. We happened to card check. We beat it and beat it so badly in the court of public opinion, they could not bring it up for a vote and it's dead. Cap and trade. You know, for 20 years we've had this global warming ideology forced on us, haven't we? It's gotten kind of tiresome a little bit. I think the American public's tired of it too. Cap and trade today, and this is a technical term. Those guys in D.C. have trouble figuring this one out. Today, cap and trade is deader than a doornail. It's done. They won't even mention it in polite company anymore. And Al Gore and Barack Obama and the radical environmentalists didn't just say, well, gosh, that's just crazy. It was an ideology. It ran its course. We really aren't going to jack up energy prices in a recession. No, they gave everything they could. Almost beat us in the House. Actually did. But we beat them in the Senate because of you. And lastly was health care. And I'm going to be totally candid with you. That was a bitter, tough defeat, was it not? Yes. It was. There's no way around that. How many of you, that's right, how many of you called, emailed, or contacted your members of Congress or Senate saying, don't force this health care on us? 85% of you. We lost a bitter, tough battle with the politicians in Washington. But folks, thanks to you and this great movement that's been built and is being built across the country, we won, and we won decisively with the American people. And don't take my word for it. Look at what happened in November of 2010, if you have to wonder anymore. You won on health care. You won on health care. And I believe when it comes down to Barack Obama's failed agenda, the number one item that will make him a one-term president in our nation's history will be his overreach on health care. The American people are not going to forgive him for taking away their health care. And by the way, I believe if we do our job, we're going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to get that done. I'm telling you, we are. It's not a pipe dream. Look, it's not over till we say it's over, and it's not over. We're going to win that issue. We've won it with the American people. It just takes those guys in Washington a couple of years to figure it out. So we're going to repeal it if we stay strong. We're going to win on that. Well, Dallas mentioned that I'm from South Carolina. I know we got some South Carolinians. Where are you? Right here. Got a few proud South Carolinians. Well, for lunch today, I had a real treat. Two of the most special folks in the world to me came up from Lyman, South Carolina, a little town right next to Spartanburg where we grew up. It was my mom and dad. They drove up from Lyman to have lunch with us. Mom wasn't feeling well, so she had to head back and couldn't stay for this. The heat got to her earlier in the day a little bit. But I was with Mom and Dad at lunch, and I was reminded of something that I'll close with. Look, I'm a Southerner, and I'm the youngest kid of four. I am proud to say I'm a complete, outright, open, out of the closet mama's boy. I am. Love Mom. My dad drove a bus for 16 years. He'd be gone on charter trips a lot, long trips. My mom worked the 4 to midnight shift at a wire factory in Lyman, and loved the job, by the way. It was a good job. It took care of our family during some tough years. And she would get home, the best time of day when I was a teenager, the best time of day was actually at night. It was about 12:15 in the morning, even on school nights. Remember, I was the baby of the family. I got away with some things, okay? Because at 12:15, my mom would get home. And back then, we didn't have any other way to heat up but the old electric stoves. We didn't have any gas back then. And about 11:45, I would put a giant pot of water on the stove, fire up the electric, or slowly heat the electric up. And by 12:15, I had good hot water. And I would take that in. I would have it in her favorite chair in the little eating area, dining room of our house. Mom would come in, take off her steel-toed shoes. She was on concrete floors all 8 hours of her shift. And she would soak her feet, and we would talk for about 30 or 40 minutes just before I went to bed. And I was thinking about that today, and she would always say, I can't tell you how many times Mom would say this. She would say, look, son, she said two things. Number one, and this for you kids, listen up. Number one, son, go get your education, because they can't take that away from you. And I remember as a kid thinking, who wants it? Who wants it? Now, I was kidding, kids. It's a good thing. Go get your education. But the second thing she would tell me, and this is what I wanted to share with you, she'd say, look, son, I know things are kind of tough. These were during the Jimmy Carter years, by the way. She would say, look, I know things are tough, but look, you and I, we live in the United States of America, and nothing is impossible here. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. And one day, I want you to have one of those coat and tie jobs. And I don't know if I quite got there, but I'm close, Mom. But we still, 30 years later, live in a country where anything is possible. But that's slipping away from us. My wife and I have 4 children. The youngest is 14, the oldest is 21. I can't tell you how many kids have graduated college with my son's class who don't have jobs. Or they don't have jobs in their profession. Or they have a job that barely lets them get minimum wage, and they're still having to live at home with their parents. And look, policies matter. What happens over in Washington, D.C. or up in D.C., it matters to these kids. And we've got to change this country to make sure they have it better than we have it. Because I tell you something, on my watch, on our watch, we're not going to be the first generation that lets our kids have it worse than we did, right? We're not going to let that happen. And that's the determination at AFP. And one last commitment from Americans for Prosperity. I want you to know, and I mean this isn't about a political party. It's not about any single election. Here's our commitment to you in North Carolina and across the country. Next January, no matter what happens in November, we're going to work hard this year. But next January, we're going to be bigger, stronger, better organized, better funded, and we're going to hold whoever is in there accountable. Are you with me on that? We're going to hold them accountable. Look, we've seen both parties, and pardon my language, we've seen both parties screw it up. It's time for a philosophical first, a principled first approach, and we're going to hold them accountable. So thanks for what you're doing. I wanted to introduce a fellow who's with us all the way from the West Coast. Once a year, we let Californians come to South and North Carolina. Right, Dallas? Once a year. And this year, it's a fellow named Tony Katz. He's a radio host. He's one of our favorite friends at AFP. Please welcome from California. We still love you, Tony. Tony Katz!